Did the story of Jonah happen? Is it a myth? Can a whale do that? Is it possible?
Part 1. The literary style of Jonah.
What genre is Jonah? Is it allegory? Is Jonah just a fictional character that's seen as a symbol of Israel's refusal to bring God to the nations? Or is the book a parable? Or a Jewish midrash? Acting as a commentary on the other parts of Scripture, in this case, maybe the theme is God's mercy. But if it's an allegory or a midrash, why doesn't Jonah follow these ancient literary structures? When you read Jonah, an ancient literary fiction, Jonah reads historical. Is it historical narrative or prophetic narrative? The past say. Up until 1823, the book was considered historical.
Archaeologist Donald Wiseman found that the historical evidence shows the details in the book of Jonah exhibit an intimate and accurate knowledge of Assyria, which could stem from a historical event as early as the 8th century BC. This means that the archaeological evidence we have today matches the details presented in the book of Jonah.
And then, Philo, who loved to interpret Scripture as allegory, saw Jonah as historical. Josephus also supported the historicity of the book. And what does the Bible think? Well, in 2 Kings 14:25, it refers to Jonah as a person in time and space. And then there's Jesus. Jesus sees Jonah as historical. He compares Jonah's 3 days in the belly of the whale to his 3 days death to resurrection. It appears that the literary context points to a historical writing.
Part 2. The historical context of Jonah.
I have to find out.
The book starts with Assyrian wickedness and that Jonah was afraid. The archaeological discoveries of inscription, wall reliefs, and other artifacts tell us about Assyria. They show us a vivid picture of Assyria's violent 8th century status. One famous Assyrian leader of the century prior was known for hanging his enemy on posts, flailing them, and lining city walls with their skins. Jonah would not have wanted to go to Nineveh. That tracks. It was a major city in Assyria, an enemy of Israel, and going to Tarshish was in the exact opposite direction. An ancient Assyrian inscription indicates that the city of Calah, Assyria, a smaller city than Nineveh, had around 70,000 inhabitants in 879 BC. This would mean Jonah 4:11, the population of Nineveh, at 120,000 100 years later, is highly accurate. And there is more archaeological evidence demonstrating the historicity of the account of Jonah. The idea of Jonah being resurrected from the watery grave was so believed and prominent in Jewish thought and practice that it became a motif on the tombs of early Jewish Christians. A 1st century bone box was discovered in Jerusalem with a rudimentary inscription of not only the name of Jonah, but a rude sketch of him being vomited out of a whale. The book appears to have more historically proven details. The shipping port Jaffa was functioning at the time. The large merchant vessels, even the Aramaic language of the sailors who most likely have been around the Aramaic-speaking Syrophoenician merchants known from this period. But what about geography? Well, Nineveh was on the east bank of the Tigris in ancient Assyria, across the river from the modern city of Mosul, Iraq. But what about the water? How could he have been swallowed by a fish? Well, Jonah mentions Jaffa, a shipping port by the sea. Part 3, the scientific perspective of Jonah. Could something from the ocean have swallowed Jonah? What kind of creature could swallow a human whole? Ancient Hebrews didn't categorize sea creatures as we do today, so the distinction between fish and mammal wasn't relevant to them. Several large sea creatures could potentially fit the bill. First, whale shark, the largest confirmed fish in the sea, growing up to 22 meters long. Its 4-foot wide mouth could admit a human, but its tiny esophagus would prevent further passage. 2, basking shark, similar to the whale shark with a large mouth but small esophagus. 3rd, blue whale, largest animal on Earth with nearly a foot-wide esophagus that might accommodate a slender person. Its stomach can hold up to a metric ton of material, but it's not found in the Mediterranean Sea. Fin whale, close relative to blue whale, found in the Mediterranean, largest recorded was 20 meters long, but its esophagus would likely be too small for a human. And then 5, sperm whale. This species stands out as the most likely candidate. Sperm whales can swallow large prey whole, including sharks and giant squid. They frequent the Mediterranean Sea, are known for deep diving, which aligns with Jonah's description of going down to the bottom of the mountains. The sperm whale's ability to vomit also matches the account of Jonah being expelled on a dry land. Sperm whales are known for producing a substance, often referred to as whale vomit. While it's possible for a whale to swallow a human whole, the real miracle lies in Jonah being in the belly of the whale for 3 days. And the text tells us that without divine intervention, he would have died. The belly of a whale being an inhospitable environment, lacking oxygen, digestive acids. Jonah even at one point describes himself as almost dead when he says, "But you, O Lord my God, snatch me from the jaws of death." And so while several large sea creatures could potentially swallow a human, a sperm whale emerges as the most likely candidate based on its size, habitat, and behavior. Possible. Just possible.